Can you hear me? Awesome. Let's start recording. We are recording. All right. How are we doing today? How was the week? Did you pace yourself and finish all the reading and were able to incorporate more, or how was the studying this week?
I had a good time with the studying. I did the reading. I read all of chapter 7, and then I did all the slides, and I missed the videos, the recommended videos the first week, and so I'm almost up to date with your recommended videos, but not quite yet.
So, which is fine. I mean, you know, the way we are teaching Ayurveda, and there is so much our brain can take, and you have to digest information just like food. So if you miss something, it is totally okay to do it next week. Just, get around to doing it it's at some point. That's fine. I mean, that's just a guideline. And sometime you will, a few months down the line, you might feel that it's too slow. Then you tell me, then we will add more stuff. All right, so we're starting with a good and of a, s- a wonderful presentation, which is kind of short, and there's a lot of repeat of stuff that we've done in the previous classes. And I said it because we keep on repeating the stuff we did in previous classes, so things will start sticking. वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते. So we are talking about, we ask you what is your dosha, you say vata, or the three doshas are vata, pitta, kapha. What is sometimes the vata is made of air and space, and the Sanskrit word for air is vayu. In fact, every profession has its jargon, and of course, Americans love jargon. So the jargon for air is vayu, and sometimes we use the word vayu synonymously with vata. So this person is having some vayu problem. So you would say, what is a vayu problem? And then vayu itself, all the five mahabhutas, all the five elements also have a predominating deity. There is a predominating deity for everything, a personified form. So the vayu, have you heard of a monkey god called Hanuman? Have you heard of him? So he is the son of Vayu. He is an avatar. He's an incarnation of Shiva and son of Vayu. Yeah. So Vayu is one of the five Mahabhutas. Vata just doesn't, Vayu doesn't just pervade Earth and Earth's atmosphere. In our Vedic texts and scriptures, there's 49 types of Vayu that have been told that pervade different parts of the universe. For example, it is said that Bhumandala, which is our, this Earth, planets are revolving around the sun. The sun itself is revolving around another loka. That loka is revolving around another loka. That loka is revolving around another loka. Of course, this is talking in celestial timeline, which can go in billions of years. And if you talk to astrophysicists, they agree that is what every body, every planetary body in the universe is revolving. So what is causing the planetary orbits? What is causing? So there are some forces like gravity. Gravity is a force of God. She's Shakti, she's Devi. So what they call science, we are calling Shakti. So the the orbiting and movement that is happening in the space, atmosphere in the on Earth, even the air within our body that makes things move. This is all Vayu. Make sense? That is why we need a predominating deity, Vayu. 49 types of Vayu pervading in outer. Kritika, have you heard of 49 Maruts?
No, Monica ji.
You have to get, you have to, being with me, you will get up on all the stories now.
Okay.
So that's why Hanuman is called Maruti. He's the son of Marut, one of the Maruts. So the 49 Maruts are the ones that cause all the, space and whatnot. Now you can take it as, this is just a mythological story, or you can take it as a metaphor. Of course, I don't believe that. I do believe because without a predominating deity, without an intelligence behind these things, how is the entire universe running? It's not possible. So in Ayurveda, everything has a predominating deity. This Vayu is, like I said, all the movement on Earth, planets, orbits, space, life breath, prana, everything is. So one thing is, I practice Qigong also. Has anyone had any Chinese medicine treatment, TCM or acupuncture? Have you had one? Yeah? Okay. So, the word that uses chi, your chi is blocked or so on. And we will have a class on, the different types of TCM and Ayurveda and how they are just beautifully, you can, use them together. So then they use the word chi and we translate it as prana. But what they mean is chi is not prana. They mean Mahabhutas. They mean Mahabhutas, they mean Shakti. They mean energy of, and when we say prana, we mean that Shakti that is the life breath that keeps us alive, meaning that there's a soul inside us, right? If the soul were to leave the body, then we would die. Is that the prana? No, that is not the prana. That causes the prana. The soul is part and parcel of the divine. So our soul, it says in Bhagavad Gita, it cannot die. The soul cannot die. The soul cannot be born. The soul cannot get wet. The soul cannot be cut. The soul cannot catch fire because it's made of this divine particle, which is not of the material world. However, it is covered by stuff that can be born. It is covered in layers that. So when the soul is present in a being, right? You see these movies, these zombies have come to life. It's just silly movies, right? But anything, you can put soul in anything. Let's say, you're a higher being who is in charge of putting souls in beings like Brahma, creator. And so you can put prana in anything. And the presence of soul makes sure that prana starts, think of there's a huge fan that is circulating the energy, because the soul is present, the energy of Vayu, energy of air and space, starts circulating because of the presence of soul. So Pran is not the soul. Pran is present because of the soul. Are we clear on that? So, and there is also Pran of the entire planet, entire universe. It's not just your and mine. Everything has pran. The life, if you throw a few seeds out there in the garden, they sprout. Life finds a way. That is because life has pran. There is pran in everything. So this is very similar to if you were to look at the Tao philosophy in the Chinese, or even the Shinto in Japanese, something similar, you know. So when we do the Agni, we'll talk about the deity of Agni and so on. So we pray to Vayu. Vayu is the cause of everything else becoming. There are 80 There's 80 diseases attribute to Vayu, Vata. And this Vayu, the person we are calling Vayu, is the deity, but they are controlling the airs, not just inside us, but all living beings. So there are many types of Vayu. So, like I said, there are 40, let me write that down. There are 80 types of diseases attribute to Vata or Vayu. 40 types of diseases attribute to Pitta. There is 20 types of diseases attributed to Kapha. This is, remember Ayurveda was written thousands of years ago, and every century we have new diseases that were not seen before, right? So at that time, there were 80 main type of diseases that have been mentioned, Pitta 40 types and Kapha 20. And then everything else that has come later can be somehow fit into these types because of based on the qualities. So let's now talk about Vayu or Vata. So when I use the word Vayu, or one of your teachers use the word Vayu, we mean Vata, okay? So don't get confused. We use it synonymously. Vata or Vayu, air, governs any movement. Give me example of a movement you think Vata can govern. Think of one movement. Some kind of activity that is happening in your body, do you think is governed by Vata? Yes, so circulation of blood. Circulation, yes. So cardiovascular circulation, cardiopulmonary, elimination of waste, which can be stool, urine, sweat. What about food? When we are chewing food, does it move? So movement of nutrition and food, is that right? Digestion, exactly. What about our nervous system? Is there movement in the nervous system? Yeah. So even our mental activity, our nervous system, in fact, our entire neuroendocrine system is governed by Vata. If Pran, it coordinates all the senses, even the fact that we can talk. So if your Vata is really down and you're not feeling well, you can talk. Talking takes a lot of energy, doesn't it? Tell me if it doesn't. If you've not been well or your Vata's been out of balance, can you talk for hours? You cannot talk for hours because it's just too much energy. Because Vayu also promotes speech, touch, hearing, joy, courage, digestion, waste. What does this mean? Gross and subtle channels in the body. So the gross channels will be your digestive system. What about respiratory system? Is that governed by Vata? Yeah. So subtle channels are the ones that cannot be, so we've talked about, we are not this body. We are a soul, and the soul is wrapped in these layers of ego, intelligence, mind, consciousness. And then the last layer that we are wearing is our gross body. So because of this wrapping of mind and ego, we think we are this body. And every time we die and we take birth, to give you an example, if you have 2 cups of water and it's in a large cup, and then there is a cup that is shaped, and then you have a round bowl. You take the water and you put it in the round bowl. Now you have a square vase, and you take the water and you put it in a square vase. It's the same water, but the outer thing is, the outer layer is getting changed. So we are like but unlike the glass of water or the vase of water, we also have a subtle body. Our subtle body, meaning that, have you talked about it last, if you've seen a ghost or they are just the subtle body without the gross body. There's millions of them out there. Luckily, most of us cannot see them, but they're just out there. People die. They have never done any spiritual activity in their life. They have not done anything good. They, or maybe they didn't know, or they're very attached to someone or something in this life. So then they will not go across. So people perceive their relatives hanging around, dead relatives. They're just a subtle body without the gross body. What's the big deal? Let them go. Let them go on their journey. Don't make them stay. So that subtle body is, so in the gross body, we talked about it, think of Vata, Pitta, Kapha as the software in the gross body. So there is also software in our subtle body, right? The body that cannot be seen, that is inside us, our energetic body, or some people call it the astral body, whatever body it is you want to call it. That also. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha exist in the subtle body as, wait for it, Prana, Tejas, and Ojas. And that we will actually do a separate class in Prana, Tejas, Ojas. But this is physical body, and this is in the subtle form. Yeah. So have you seen different shapes of embryo? If you look at embryo of different animals, in the beginning, the embryo, it is hard to tell which animal it is. Have you noticed? Have you seen documentaries and so on? So the embryo kind of starts the same, and then the shape of the embryo changes to whatever the animal is. If it's a sea lion, then the embryo will become a sea lion. If it's a cat, the embryo will become like a kitten. If it's a bird, the embryo will turn, whatever it is, the embryo changes the shape. And the shape that is happening of the fetus is determined by Vayu. Even our lifespan now is determined by Vata. So it is said that when you are born, there is a number of breaths that you've been given, these many quadrillion, trillion breath. And when your breaths are done, you'll die. That's it. There's also minor Vayus that we don't study, but they happen. For example, if Nagavayu, if you start burping, it doesn't do anything else. It just makes you burp. Kurmavayu makes you blink. Devadatta governs yawning. The sneezing, hunger, and thirst is Krikal. You don't need to know this is for information. I mean, I just put it out there. Dhananjaya is a Vayu. So I don't know if anybody has seen a dead body. Even after the body dies, if it's a man, you will still see the facial hair come in. You have to shave them. So how is it that the facial hair is coming even up? Because there is still some little bit of pran left in the body. Or sometimes you'll see the nails have grown in a dead body. That is Dhananjaya. So the minor Vayus, we don't teach you about it. We don't talk about it. It's not in the scope. We have just told you. That's it. So burping, yawning, blinking, thirst, hunger, sneezing, decomposition, movement, touch, hearing. So Vata is the most important dosha. If someone were to come to you, no matter what their health issue is, and you were to just balance their Vata, 7 times out of 10, maybe 6 times out of 10, their Pitta Kapha will automatically get balanced. This is how important Vata is. So it is not that if Andrea, you have Vata, only for you balancing Vata is important. Because of the society we live in a modern industrial society, it is constantly disturbing our Vata. I mean, have you, when you take a break from your everyday life and you go to a park, or people go to state parks, so they go camping and they are in the nature for 2-3 days. They're not looking at their phone. They're not on a computer. And that kind of life is when your Pitta and Kapha is going to be, whatever your natural constitution is going to be. will become more prominent. But that's not how all of us live. We live in a post-industrial modern world, and everything is artificial. In the winter, we are we put, heat on all the time, which is not natural, and we never open our windows. If you go to Europe, they do. They'll open their windows even on even in winter sometimes. Kritika, don't we do that in India? We'll open our windows in winter.
Yeah, actually, I have my door open right now. So
Yeah, we'll let the air come in, even if it's a little cold.
fresh air, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like we call it, oh, let's have some ventilation. Why that? Because then our body and the outside atmosphere, they can sync, we can sync with nature. But if we are always in, if you're always in winter, we are always have the heat on. And in the summer, we have the AC on all the time. So I have the AC on at like almost when it reaches 80 degrees. Yeah, Kat, exactly. But we need to do that. Yes, in order to, if you sync with nature, things will come into balance. Exactly. All right, so this is done. We did this, we've already done this before, but let's do the mental manifestation. This is the same thing we did in the last, we talked about the 5 Mahabhutas. Space is manifest here and air is it's exactly the same thing. The only thing we've added is how to balance the space element. Let's say Vata is made of space and air, right? To balance space, you must have a daily routine. Your activity should be focused, not just like I'll do whatever I feel like. There has to be a structure. Now, if you were a kapha, you need to have less structure because kaphas just live by their structure. And then the vata balancing food, you cannot just have cereal for breakfast. It has to be cooked breakfast. You have to add ghee. You have to avoid any dry food, any salad. You have to do a oil massage before you take a. So what balances space element, air element, vata, it's same thing. Space element and air element are both pacified by this. Warming foods. What do you think we mean by warming foods? Meaning they should be hot meals. What do we mean? Yeah, they should be cooked hot meals. It should not be like the gazpacho soup, the gazpacho, the tomato cold. You cannot give that to a vata, even though tomatoes are sour. But the gazpacho soup is cold and it's uncooked and it's actually going to end up. Now you take the same tomato and you cook it, add a little bit of ghee or oil and some spices, then it's balancing for vayu. So this is all we had done it. So I'm going to leave this. This is all from the last. So if you remember, the qualities were dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, and clear. And these are just something you keep on repeating it because you have to know. So how does the dryness of vata manifest? Dry hair, dry skin, constipation, the moisture in the colon kind of dries up, light sleeper, lightweight, do not gain weight easily, light menstruation. So when they do get their periods, it's not heavy bleeding, it's light bleeding. Cold, always feeling cold. Rough can be rough skin, and rough can also manifest, even cold can manifest. Just like you will see, it is 75 degrees outside, and you'll see the vata person who's suffering from vata, or a vata person with a full, a little bit of a jacket, a light jacket in hot weather, because they're just cold. They're cold, and hands are cold as well. So the qualities of vata, rough, can be also in the mind, not just in the body. Subtle, they're creative, intuitive. Rough can be, the skin can be rough. Speech can be rough when they're unbalanced. Mobile, they are, love to move. And vata itself doesn't sit still because it's air. Air, it is a quality of air to move. So because of this quality, a vata is always getting unbalanced. If you are vata, you are constantly getting unbalanced. You have to constantly balance yourself. Doesn't make sense? And that's totally okay. So you can't just follow something and stop it, because the moment you stop doing your abhyanga and foods, even for one day, even for 2 days, you'll start getting unbalanced. And you don't even you have to stop. The seasons, as the seasons change, the nature will unbalance it for you. And sometimes vata can be clairvoyant, mind is clear, and they like space, they love cleaning, they like space. They will not fill their house with too much furniture, things like that. So let's talk about it. So there are many sides of vata. The one that I'm going to introduce you to some prana, udana, vyana, samana. So you don't have to memorize them right now, but at some point, these have to become part of your jargon. Prana, udana, vyana, samana, apana. Have you heard any of these before? Okay, so prana, you all know, it's a very common. In yoga classes, when they use the word prana, they only mean the life force, vitality. In Ayurveda, when we're specifically talking about prana, we're talking about the prana, which is the subdosha of vata, and it is the head of all subdoshas, and its main site is here. This is the top. So this is called a marma. On top of your head, when babies are born, and there is that fontanelle, there is a part on the top of the baby's head, which is soft, and that's why babies are not given haircuts. It takes about 12 to 18 months for those bones to join together. That is your crown chakra. That's why babies are so sensitive and they're so psychic. That chakra is open. Oh boy, they can just sense stuff like a super psychic, right? So that is that area where prana. So if you want to know so this is called Adhipati Marma or crown chakra. And prana kind of resides there. It is happening because prana is happening because there's soul, and it's circulating prana everywhere. So prana is everywhere, but this is one of the main sites that it resides on the top of your head. Right now, I'm just telling you the one site. There are more sites, but this is the main site. Of course, prana resides in the heart and so on and so forth, right? And why is it important for us to know this side of prana? Because when we get unbalanced, we cannot reach down to our heart and start massaging our heart. I mean, we can massage our chest. But in order to balance prana, when we're out of balance, we can just simply take, let's say, if you're feeling spaced out and you don't have clarity, you can take a little bit of sesame oil, or you could take Brahmi oil, and you warm it up a little bit, and you put it on the top of the head on your crown chakra, and you massage for 3 to 4 minutes, and your prana, your vata is going to calm down. This is that prana. It's very important. Prana, and we'll talk about what there. And prana's direction is everywhere. It circulates everywhere because vata is circulation. So it circulates. Udana is the vata, why do tears come? So there is a force that makes you expectorate. And if you swallow stuff, sometimes, the food goes in the wrong direction, you spit it out. When we talk, the air comes out, doesn't it? When you're singing, the air comes out. Now, if you were to take a breath in, and without breathing, try to talk, you will not be able to talk, because without that air, you cannot talk. You need the combination of the vocal cords and the tongue and the mouth and air, that air which makes you talk, that air which makes you spit, expectorate, is udana, right? Tear up. Vyana is literally your cardiovascular, cardiopulmonary circulation, heart, lungs, and so on. I don't think we are showing any stomach here, but imagine if there was a stomach, and where the stomach joins with your intestine, that portion where stomach joins with the intestine, the duodenum area, is where your Agni resides. The main Agni of the body, main digestive fire resides, and a sub-dosha of Vata resides called Samana. So think of the word Sama as same. Samana. It is so this helps in digestion of food. This is circulation. Udan is expectoration, speech. Pran is life, basically. And Apan is the expulsion of waste. So when a woman gives birth, when she has, she is expelling blood from the uterus, when you're expelling stool, when you're expelling urine, expulsion of reproductive fluids, everything is happening because of this downward force called apana. This is all vata. You can say vata, 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 but we have further subdivided it. And you don't have to learn the thing now, but at some point, in the coming weeks, you will start getting used to these words. Prana is the vital force. Udana is the upward movement. It also sustains memory. Vyana, circulation, pulsation. Samana, digestion. Apana, elimination of semen, urine, feces, and fetus. So, you see some arrows here. What do they mean? These arrows are the direction of Vata. Vata is movement. Movement meaning you're going from A to B. When you're going from A to B, that means you're moving. So you move in a certain direction, right? It's not random. So prana that resides here, it circulates all over the body. It's everywhere, but this is just, we have put it there that this is one of the main sites, but it just resides everywhere. Udana, Udana is expectoration. It's upward movement of speech and memory and tears and so on, right? Vyana is, like I said, it is cardiovascular, cardiopulmonary circulation. It's the circulation of heart, of lungs. So it is going in, one direction and then another direction, depending on the right ventricle and the left ventricle of the heart. The samana, I think this is wrong, the way he has given it. Think of samana as a mixer. So like if you guys use a mixie, what do you call it, a mixie? What is it called here? Blender. If you use a blender, the blender, you put stuff in the blender and the blender blends it. So samana is the force that blends food up, moves, oops. So samana is the blending force. So I don't know if you want to do blending force. I think of samana as more like a centrifugal force, or, think of it as it's going from side to side, like in a blender, the food goes from side to side, something like that. Again, prana circulates everywhere. Udana moves upward. Vyana moves concentrically. Samana churns. He is saying up and down, but it's mostly it gets sideways also. Samana churns sideways. It's just churning motion. Apana moves down. Is everybody clear on that? Remind me again what Udana is. What is Udana? What does Udana do?
It's the upward movement for like the air and also for like related to the throat.
Yes. So related to throat, speech, memory, tears. Very good. Vyana, think of something that what Vyana does. What is Vyana? Heart circulation. Awesome. Samana. What is Samana? Digestion, Agni. It is blending your food down. Whatever you're eating, it is, yes. And Samana is in exactly same place as where your Agni is. So think of blending is happening while heat is on. This is how the food is, whatever we eat gets broken down into smaller and smaller and smaller particles till it becomes tiny molecules so it can move through the blood, it can get absorbed and digested, right? So this is a combination of Samana blending stuff and there is heat coming on. Like when you're cooking, sometimes you're cooking and you have a spatula that you're moving in your food. So you're churning your food while you're cooking. Something like that. That cooking process is happening here. And what is apana? Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. So think of this as like flashcards. I mean, I can just say them, but it doesn't. So you can make flashcards if you're into making flashcards, or you can just print this. And the thing that you need to remember at this point is only the location and function. You do not need to worry about the imbalances. We have given you those, but we don't ask you, there is not going to be any quiz movement, you already know. So where is prana located? See, we've given you so many places. Out of this, what is the most two important locations would be brain and heart, with brain being number one, heart being number two. Function, respiration, clarity of mind, sensory perception, reasoning, memory. I haven't written energy, but I should write that down too. So I can. If you don't have good prana, your energy levels are going to be low. Okay. Again, we are only interested in the location and the function. Udan is in the throat. Forget the navel lungs. Just imagine it's in the throat. And anything that comes out of the throat, you're throwing something. So speech, your vocal cords are on the throat. Exhalation. So if you do yoga, the inhale and exhalation is coming out of the throat and nose. Your swallowing is happening actually swallowing, this is not entirely correct. Swallowing is also a function of prana. So if somebody's prana is down, so swallowing involves two vata doshas, udana and prana. If your udana is on prana or low, you cannot communicate. So if a person is having trouble communicating, talking and expressing themselves, that means their udana vata is out of balance. If you have somebody who's talking nonstop and not letting you get a word in, is their udana vata out of balance? So sometimes, I have clients and then they just start talking and they don't stop. And it's 20 minutes gone by and it's a 1 hour. I said, I have to stop you right here. I'm so sorry, because we need to get on with the consultation. And they just go on a tangent. So you have to bring them back. You automatically know they're Udanavatas. On the other hand, they're overexpressing themselves. It is an unbalance. On the other hand, you have somebody and you say, what is wrong? And, how can I help you? And they're not able to express themselves at all. They cannot express. That is, so the first one, when they were overexpressing, is high Udanavata. And the second one, where they are not able to communicate themselves, is low Udanavata. Make sense? So again, we are not going to talk about the imbalances because they are out of the scope for AC 101. Only thing it is in throat, and even lungs and speech, exhalation, memory, swallowing, and so on, communication. Vyana is the circulation, again, the circulation of blood, circulation of the rasa rakta dhatus. Rasa is a lymphatic fluid, rakta is blood. All the circulation, any circulation, even the circulation of food, the food that is digested and broken into small molecules, it is absorbed into the lymphatic fluid, it's absorbed into the blood. That absorption of the nutrition going from one place to other is Vyana. That circulation is also under Vyana. So this is what we mean by circulation of rasa and rakta dhatus. It just simply means the nutrition that is the bolus, nutrition bolus, they call it CHYLE, chyle, which is the end product of digestion, is absorbed in the lymphatic fluid. It's absorbed, the nutrition is absorbed by the blood tissue, and that is happening because of Vyana. Also, our thought, motion, energy, motor nerves, everything, basically carrying nutrients through the body, this is all happening because of Vyana. So Vyana is more than just the heart, cardiovascular circulation. Pretty much any circulation that is happening in the body is happening because of Vyana. So like I said, Samana is, so when you cook food, right? When you cook food, let's say you're cooking a curry or something, and you have it on a high flame, and if you leave it on the high flame without, using a spatula and churning it and giving it some movement, the food will stick to the bottom. So you have to keep on churning it, right? You have to use a spoon or a spatula to keep on churning and moving the food. So that's what it's doing. When we are digesting our food, the Agni or digestive fire, is giving the heat, and Samanavata is churning it up and down and side to side. So it is in clinical terms, it is the peristalsis. It is the movement of food through GI tract. The food, we eat the food, and the food starts getting digested in the mouth itself. The starches started getting broken down into sugars by bodha kapha or the salivary amylase. And then the food, we chew it, it goes down through esophagus to our stomach. And then food keeps on breaking down and down and down and down. What is happening? And then it's moving through the small intestine. Digestive enzymes are being secreted. Actually, the digestive enzymes are pitta. Digestive enzymes are pitta. But who is asking, who is controlling, oh, you should make digestive enzymes? So Samanvata is signaling pitta. And we're going to do an entire class on how these doshas talk to each other, and there's an interplay which makes digestion happen, and there's a separate class on it. I'm not going to talk about it today. Just all you need to remember, forget everything else in this slide. Think of churning in a blender. Food is churning in a blender, so you know how food churns in a blender, circular. Just think of that, and think of movement in the intestine and stomach, and food getting broken down. That is your Saman Vata. That's it. Forget everything else. Imbalances, again, this is covered in AC 103. So again, we have given you the information. But when we do the AC 103, I'll bring the same slides up and you'll say, yeah, I know the slide. So like I said, there is a method to the madness. So right now, don't look at this. I mean, you can, but you'll get confused if you do. So right now, job is to remember Saman, where is it located? What is the movement? What does it do? That's it. That's all you need to do. Apan is the, which one? How does it go? It goes downward. It is the downward force of Vata. In colon, in reproductive organs, urinary bladder, hips, thighs, and knees. So absorbing nutrients, elimination of feces, urine, stool, menstrual blood, even labor contractions. So, they give, they give you some medication and that actually induces labor contraction. But apana vayu is what is inducing the labor contractions, basically. So imagine if the apana vayu is not working, you will have so many issues. So if someone is having, for example, a woman has heavy menstrual bleeding, then her apana vayu is high. If somebody has light menstrual bleeding, their apana vayu is low, right? If somebody is having trouble passing urine or trouble passing stool, their apana vayu is low or affected, like that. So we do all of this clinical portion in AC 103. Again, today, all you need to know is there is a subtype of Vata dosha, which is called apana. So does anybody do yoga here? There's a yoga asana called apana asana. Apana asana, right? Where you take your knees and you bring your knees to your abdomen. And many times in class, when people do that, they pass gas. And the teachers, they will light a, incense or something. Yeah, wind release pose. You're releasing that wind, apana, from your colon. Exactly. Excessive. Why? And if your apana is balanced, you will not release any wind. But if it is not balanced and you're holding air in there, that air that you're holding in the colon, that excessive air, is apana. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think I want you to do it. The only takeaway I want you to take from this entire slide is Vata is the king of all the three doshas. Vata, if you could balance Vata in a person, everything else will come automatically balanced. Forget their dosha, just balance their Vata. That is your secret, not my secret. It's not something that we'll go and reveal it to people because the post-modern industrial society we live in is constantly aggravating our Vata. Vata is the one that aggravates. Kapha is earth, it's mountain. Can mountains move? The only reason kapha gets disturbed is when vata disturbs it. Mountains don't move. If pitta is fire, it's not spreading easily. It is the air, it is the vata that spreads inflammation. It's the vata that spreads pitta. So we always want to balance the vata. And obviously, this is, like I said, 6 times out of 10, you could close your eyes and balance vata and things will come into, and you don't have to tell the client this. This is something we know. It is our little secret. And you, again, the dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, clear, the qualities. And air element. Again, same thing, air and space element, if you look at it. Eat cooked food, follow a daily routine, have a structure in your life. The minute you take structure out, vata goes out of balance. Avoid dryness, soak your beans, have garlic, have asafoetida, same things. And then you have the 5 types of vata: prana, udana, vyana, samana, apana. Is it easier now? We have talked about these 5 to say, because nobody, we don't have an English equivalent word for this. Prana, udana, vyana, samana, apana. Right? And each of these sub-doshas have a direction and function. And that's all you want to know. And that's going to be one of the homeworks for their directions, location, function. Forget the imbalances. right? How does Vata become unbalanced now? I think we kind of, so forget the Sanskrit in this one. Let's just look at why. Suppression of natural urges. Can you give me an example of a natural urge? Can you give me an example of a natural urge? What is a natural urge? Yes, hunger, thirst, urinating, passing stool, burping, even farting, passing air. Now, there is a Western culture thing, if you burp in public, it's very rude. And so it's a natural function, or I'm not saying, pass smelly gas in front of others, but, go in the side and do it. But if you suppress natural urges, then Vata gets out of balance, and pretty badly. Overeating or undereating, both. Staying up late at night. In fact, for Kapha people who are trying to lose weight, we tell them stay up late at night, so that Vata can get unbalanced and they can lose weight, believe it or not. This is just the opposite. For Vata, you cannot stay up late. You have to go to bed at the same time and get your whatever hours you need. So in the West says everybody must get 8 hours of sleep. That we don't believe that in Ayurveda. Vata needs more than 8 hours of sleep, especially if they're unbalanced. They may need 9 hours. Or if somebody is not feeling well and they have a Vata health-related issue, they may need more than 8 hours. If you're a Pitta and they have healthy Pitta needs a little, they can manage with 7 hours, or even less, even 6.5 hours. Now, Kaphas don't need a lot of sleep, but they like to sleep. Kaphas will tell you they're sleeping 9 hours. You're like, why are you sleeping 9 hours? Because I like it. But they don't need it. They don't need it. They just like it. They just love to sleep. So we tell the Kapha, you have to, cannot sleep for 10 hours. Sorry, that increases weight. Sleeping more for Kapha increases weight. Sleeping less will help you lose weight. But for Pitta, for Vatas, they need more sleep. Talking too much or not talking at all. Eating cold foods, meaning the temperature, like salads and cold salads or ice cream, or like I was saying, gazpacho soup, the cold gazpacho tomato soup. Excessive physical work. And what we call excessive is not what, uh, going and 30 minutes of exercise a day is enough for Vata. Why? Because they are moving all day. They are not considering all the housework they do and other stuff as exercise. So 30 minutes a day is enough. Because but for obviously for Kapha or Pitta, this is going to be more. Excess walking, meaning like 4 or 5 miles a day, that's going to, if you're a Kapha person and you walk 4 miles, you're not going to get unbalanced. Pitta, as long as it's not heat, you're not going to get imbalanced. If you're a Vata and you walk 4 miles and it's windy outside or it's cold outside, you have unbalanced yourself as soon as you've come back home. So no, if they're walking inside a gym in a controlled temperature, then it's okay. But walking out, but still not 4 or 5 miles, make it less, few miles. But swimming is okay, especially swimming in a warm pool. So we'll be talking about balancing Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and their subdoshas in in AC 103. This is AC 101. We are just introducing you to the concept. Eating foods like pungent, bitter, or astringent foods, very spicy, very bitter, very drying foods. So if you like to worry, if you think too much, that'll unbalance Vata. Too much sex, being afraid of everything. This intermittent fasting has become very, very popular, and it's actually good for Kaphas. It is not that Pittas will absolutely not good for Pitta and Vata to do intermittent fasting. But because it worked for one group doesn't mean it's going to work for every demographic, but people have really gotten into it. And Ayurveda, we do believe in fasting. It's called Langana, but it's not forever. We do it as part of a detoxification where we prepare the body and then we do it and then we stop. It's not like we are doing it for 3 months or something. The shoka, always, too much grief, too much worrying. And you don't have to do anything. Just go, like I said, go for a walk in wind. Go take a cold shower, and especially in the cold months, or just the fall or the spring season. Not spring, early winter and fall will also increase vata. I think that might be the last slide. So how do you pacify vata? So we do the opposite. Vata is what? Is vata dry? Vata is dry. So you eat oily foods. Doesn't mean fried foods, meaning things like avocado, nuts that are naturally rich in fats. You do use things like ghee or sesame oil or a coconut oil. You eat heating foods. What do we mean by heating foods? Foods that are warming, cooked, and hot, nourishing, like, and this is again, we covered this in a lot of detail when we do AC 103. So I'm just quickly going through it. So we just do the opposite, basically. Let's go back to that. We do the opposite of dry. We give oily foods, and we also put oil on our body and hair. Light, we give heavy foods. But what do we mean by heavy foods? Whole grains. What do we mean by heavy foods? We are talking about root vegetables, starchy vegetables, vegetables that come from the ground, but not salads. Salads are too light. We give warm foods, warming foods. Yeah, this is basically, you do the opposite in order to balance the vata. And I'm going to end there. Any questions?
I have a question, Manjulalaji.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know, like, usually, like, in Indian tradition, when they say any mantras to invoke, and then like they perform a puja, they mention all these like pranaya swaha. So does that mean that they are invoking all these sabdoshas? I know it's not a part of this, but it suddenly came to my mind.
Yeah. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that he is prana, right? Atul knows that verse. I can't think of it right now. So
Okay.
yes, it is the divine that is residing in our body. In fact, one of the ways to digest food, if you have a bad digestion, is the prayer that you do before you eat is you do pranaya swaha, apanaya swaha, samanaya swaha. And yeah, so
Okay.
Krishna says that he himself is the Jathar Agni, the digestive fire that is in the belly. So by doing a prayer to, divine, the God himself has become, so it's the energy. What is that?
Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Prananam Deham Ashritam Pranapana
Apana
Samayukta
samayuktaha.
Chaturvidham. Yes, that
One.
Okay.
So we'll put that verse in there. All right, let's take a 2-minute break, or longer if you like. 2 minutes is okay. And then I'll give you a longer breakfast break after Atul's class.